William Marshal is one of the most significant figures of medieval England, often hailed as the greatest knight. A glance at the lords he served during his lifetime reveals some of the most prominent names in English history. These include Henry II, Richard the Lionheart, John Lackland, and John's son, Henry III. Serving across 5 reigns, Marshal not only witnessed a period of great upheaval and transformation in England, but also exemplified the true spirit of knighthood during that era. In stark contrast to the distinguished legacy he would later establish, William Marshal's early life was marked by hardship. Born in 1135, his childhood coincided with a time of political turmoil in England. That same year, King Henry I reportedly died of a severe case of indigestion after overindulging in lampreys. His death plunged the kingdom into a fierce succession crisis. William's father, John Marshal, aligned himself with Empress Matilda, a claimant to the throne residing in the Holy Roman Empire. John led her forces against King Stephen, who had been elected by the English nobility. During the standoff, John Marshal sent his youngest son, William Marshal, to King Stephen as a hostage to signify his surrender. However, after Stephen accepted the gesture, John secretly continued preparing his forces within the castle. This betrayal enraged Stephen, who personally led an attack on John Marshal's stronghold. He threatened to hurl young William into the castle walls using a siege catapult if John did not surrender. John Marshal, however, remained utterly indifferent. He reportedly told the king, "I still have the hammer and anvil to forge better sons." Fortunately, in a moment of compassion, Stephen relented. The king personally rescued the trembling boy from the catapult, sparing William from being smashed into oblivion. This act of mercy ensured that the future statesman and knight of England would survive to make his mark on history. After the war ended, William Marshal, as John Marshal's youngest son, had no right to inherit the family estate. At the age of 12, he was sent by his father to live with relatives in Normandy. Fortunately, during his time there, William received training in all the skills required to become an exceptional knight, including martial arts, education, and exposure to the Romantic literature of France. In 1166, William joined the conflict in Upper Normandy and was finally knighted during this period. Although the young knight performed admirably on the battlefield, he made a significant misstep by neglecting the practice most knights considered essential: plundering. This earned William some ridicule after the war. In the years that followed, William Marshal participated in numerous brutal knightly tournaments, gradually gaining recognition in the chivalric community. However, in 1168, he experienced the misfortune that many knights inevitably faced: defeat and capture. While serving under Earl Patrick, tasked with escorting Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, the group was ambushed en route. Earl Patrick was killed in battle, and William suffered a severe thigh wound that could have led to a fatal infection. By sheer luck, William found a piece of cloth hidden in a loaf of bread, which he immediately used to dress his wound. This unexpected stroke of fortune saved his life. Later, he was ransomed by Queen Eleanor herself as a gesture of gratitude for his valiant efforts to defend her during the ambush. After narrowly escaping death, William Marshal realized that the dangerous tournaments for knights offered a far greater financial reward compared to the perilous battlefield. He actively participated in these bloody contests to earn his livelihood, achieving remarkable success and building a formidable reputation. This success eventually earned him a place in the court of King Henry II, marking the beginning of his royal service. Serving the royal court proved to be far more lucrative than competing in tournaments. Impressed by William's bravery and martial prowess, Henry II granted him the royal estate of Cartmel in Cumbria. The king even attempted to arrange a marriage between William and Heloise, a wealthy heiress from northern Lancashire. However, William declined the proposal. Later, during the conflict between Henry II and King Philip II of France, William seized the opportunity to request the king's approval for his marriage to another wealthy lady, Dionysia of Châteauroux. Before long, William Marshal, who served King Henry II, found himself crossing swords with the future king, Richard, and his brothers. Encouraged by Philip II of France, Richard and his siblings rebelled against their father. William Marshal was tasked with suppressing the uprising. Using his exceptional combat skills, William managed to unhorse Richard by killing his steed, effectively capturing the future Lionheart with minimal harm. After Henry II's death, Richard I ascended the throne. Despite his past defeat at William Marshal's hands, Richard greatly admired William's martial prowess. Instead of holding a grudge, the new king chose to reward him. Richard arranged a marriage between William and an even wealthier noblewoman, Isabel de Clare. This union brought William immense wealth and elevated him to become one of the richest nobles in England. As the saying goes, nothing comes without a price. Richard I's magnanimity towards William Marshal was not without purpose. He clearly expected William to serve him faithfully. Richard, known for his disdain for matters beyond warfare, such as politics and finances, delegated those responsibilities entirely to William Marshal and his brother John. When Richard embarked on the Third Crusade, William was appointed to the Regency Council, marking the beginning of his career as England's de facto steward. However, William Marshal's relationship with the future King John was far from harmonious. During the Third Crusade, it was William who thwarted John's rebellion. Despite this, Richard had designated John as his heir, which left William in an awkward position after Richard's death. Later, as France began annexing Normandy, a region where William owned significant estates, he sought peaceful resolutions to avoid the destruction of his properties. This approach, unsurprisingly, angered King John. Moreover, the two frequently clashed over landholdings in Ireland. Despite these tensions, William Marshal remained committed to his duties as England's steward. During the First Barons' War, sparked by the Magna Carta crisis, William was one of the few nobles who stood firmly by the crown. This loyalty eventually led to a reconciliation between King John and his steadfast steward. In 1216, King John passed away. As the royal family's most loyal knight and steward, the nearly 70-year-old William Marshal assumed the role of regent and chief minister for John's young son, Henry III. With his newfound authority, William's first action was to swiftly suppress the rebellious barons and confront Prince Louis of France, who had been declared the new King of England by these nobles. After defeating his opponents, William Marshal chose to treat the rebel barons with relative leniency, a decision that drew criticism at the time. Nevertheless, under the stewardship of the Great Marshal, England regained peace. Furthermore, William oversaw the reissue of the Magna Carta. However, by this time, the elderly William Marshal was no longer able to continue his service to the crown. In 1219, he passed away, marking the end of a legendary era.